Aloha from my home in Hawaii. So I think this is a really nice place to transmit the following message so you can see the beautiful mountains in the background. I'm inspired to come on today to talk about what is coming in the next summer, in this summer. Meaning we're at the end of May, crazy enough. Hello, welcome. And guys, we're halfway through the year. I mean, this is insane. It's 2020, we're halfway through the year, and 2020 has been known and seen for many of us as a year of revelations. And I don't think I need to go into that, but that's quite clear. And June is the halfway point. Hola! And not only is it the halfway point, it's also a peak. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit about the energy and the portals that are coming up. And the reason why I had this yearning and urge to share this is because of how powerful the times that are coming are being. And I don't want to say it's coming, because it's already here. And a lot of you have already experienced or are experiencing massive transformation, right? Outside of what is going on or what is perceived to be going on the global stage. In our own personal lives, we are experiencing a lot of change. And in my eyes, it's extremely positive and it's extremely needed. Although it doesn't look very pretty, or it can be actually pretty messy, when you're cleaning out a dirty room or a car, you find trash, but you clean out that trash. And that's where we're doing right now as a collective, and more specifically and more important, my message today is doing that on an individual level. So I had this urge the beginning of the week to be I need to share this. This is way too, it hit me this weekend. And I'm this is the end of May. We're stepping into this triple eclipse gateway, which opened with the new moon. So it opened last week, and the first eclipse is next Friday with the full moon. And so the solstice, which is June 20th, is pretty much, if you could see the year of 2020 in one line, it's the peak of the year, right? It's the summer, it's the action point, it's the highest peak of energy of the year. It's when things start to climax, right? Before they start to integrate, settle down, and come back down into the fall and the winter. So perhaps some of us are hoping that things will slow down and get back to normal, but from what I can sense and see with this eclipse gateway is that, forget about the world stage, I'm not going to go into that, but on an internal basis, right? There's so many planets in retrograde, and there's just so much transformation happening that we are being asked to go even deeper before we actually get out of all of this, right? And it is a blessing in disguise for many of us, because we don't always want to do the work, and we don't always want to face our own things and step up where we are needed to step up. And usually the one barrier that holds us back from doing that is life, right? It's our routines, it's our day-to-day business that we're so caught up in and so busy with that we don't have time and space to look at the deeper things in our lives and our bodies and our minds and spirits. And so what's coming through is that what starts now, it's already started, this past weekend has been massively revealing to me. And that's only, that's not even the start of it, right? That's just the door opening. We're stepping into it full force with this eclipse next Friday. So I wanted to give you guys just some tips, and if you're on and you want to ask some questions, I would love to answer any questions that you may have, but to make this process a little bit more practical, because it can seem to be a lot. So, by the way, this is also one of the reasons why this mentorship, the Woman Wisdom Mentorship, is being opened at this time, right? We are going to be diving deep with all of the support that you can imagine. There's also the 3-day fast. I'm opening that as well. There's a lot happening. My book is being released, and these are just examples of energy really being almost like, I don't want to say explosive, but it's very out in the forefront. And perhaps in your life it's not so much as creative content, right? We all have a different way of feeling that energy and having it expressed in the world, but it's also internal. Like in my own life, I have had to make very big decisions in the past 2 weeks that I didn't imagine myself making, right? So I'm just curious to know if this is what you guys are feeling, and if you're coming across what seems to be very difficult situations. I can say that first and foremost, the first thing that I do is I take energy out of the external world. So if you are watching a lot of TV, if you are in a lot of social media, right? I mean, these platforms are beautiful and they connect us and they give us information, right? But it's what type of information are you receiving and are you accepting in your field? Because through these gateways, and this is what I love about these portals and these gateways, it's this massive influx of light and energy. And so when you have these massive influxes, you also have an acceleration that happens in your own field, right? Because we have an energy field, and in our collective field of our family, of our communities, of our neighborhoods. So you have all of this light streaming in, and in order for that light to take some kind of space, something has to be removed, right? It's not like we're just empty vessels walking around waiting for portals to give us light. It doesn't work that way. We already have something in that area of our bodies where light is going to replace that thing. So if you could imagine, let's just imagine our body has green light. I'm just going to make up a random color. And I don't want to use colors like brown and black, because then it's like you're replacing the dark with the light, and I don't want you to think about it in that sense. But let's say our body is green and these light influxes are gold. So you're not just an empty vessel waiting to receive gold light. You're a green vessel receiving gold light. Now, the gold light, you can say, either transmute, takes over, or pushes away the green light. That action part is not so important. The important part is that the green ceases to exist. And if you can call green your trauma, your wounds, whatever's holding you back in life, whatever reason that it is you're not living your wildest dreams, whatever it is, right? Manifestation, owning up to your own being, activation of your DNA, it could be a bazillion things. That green light is waiting to be moved and transmuted and alchemized. So when the gold light comes in, it has somewhere to be, right? But that process is not easy, neither is it pretty most of the time. And these eclipse gateways, especially a triple eclipse around the solstice, is a massive acceleration, right? So what do we do when this green light is being transmuted or alchemized? And what it looks like to be in our external world, meaning like our life, it starts to get messy and stressful. And it's like, why is this happening to me? Why does this thing keep popping up, right? Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. There's a lot of death happening as well, and we will be touching upon that in the Woman Wisdom Mentorship, because death is such a powerful topic to embrace and to really sit with, and to know that death is rebirth and death is life. And just like we were talking about the green light, right? What is it other than the death of the green light, then transmuting into golden light, right? It's like we have these words to explain certain things, but when they play out in certain scenarios in our lives, we label them bad or good. It's really interesting. So the dynamic of death, and death has been and will continue to be a theme in 2020 because 2020 is a year of revelation. It's a year of seeing. And in order to see, once you see, you have you start to have the power. You start to embrace the ability to own your seeing, right? For example, like if you can see what's actually in front of you, if we're wounded or traumatized and we just see, but we don't really see, what we think is happening is that someone's out to get us, or something just keeps happening to me, or I'm a victim, or X, Y, and Z, right? But when we actually see with our true internal vision, then that's when we start to receive the power. And that's when we start to receive the wisdom to say, oh, I see what's happening. I see that 2020 is a year of revelation. And I see that 2020 is not only death, but also transformation and rebirth. So if I can see that, what does that mean for me as an individual, as Celeste? How do I apply that into my life? Well, if I can see it, then I can start to embrace it. And I start to take responsibility, right? So that's step number one is, can you take responsibility for whatever is coming up for you? And this was huge. It's so often that these things are said, and it's so easy to listen and say, yeah, I see it. Yeah, I take responsibility. And then nothing happens, nothing changes, right? And then you ask yourself, why does it keep coming up? Well, it keeps coming up because we're not truly seeing from the depths of our heart and our soul. And so once you start to see and claim responsibility, now you're stepping into the game. Now you're stepping into the game of becoming your co-creative potential and activating that. So when you see it and you take responsibility, you say, okay, how am I playing this role? So let's say something, stressful or traumatic or whatever the situation may be that you're experiencing right now, or you may experience through the solstice, right? Solstice for me last year was life-changing in so many ways, and I met face-to-face with death as well. It was a true re-encounter with death. And yet, there has been a rebirth. So solstice asks of us to see and to take responsibility, and then once we're there, how can we start to realize who we are in the stage of this life that we live? What am I doing to keep living these things? Or what can I do to alchemize? Not necessarily to get rid of or push away, right? Because you don't necessarily need to push away people or situations in your life, but how can I transmute the energy so that it serves me and my growth, as opposed to feeling like I'm getting hurt? So step one is really seeing what's actually in front of you, actually seeing with your eyes of the soul. And that means stepping away from any conscious storytelling, right? Or any victim mentality. And then seeing that and taking responsibility for that. So then once you have that, then you can start to move forward. And then you can start to go deeper into your process. And these gateways, it's 3 of them on purpose, so they will build on each other, right? So through all of June and July, we're going to be building and working on something, right? So we have all of these planets in retrograde, Saturn and Pluto and Venus, right? These planets that rule power and relationships and self-love and karma and life destiny. Like, these are big themes, guys. And it's the year 2020. Like, that's huge. So I just wanted to share that when you are stepping into these times of transformation, take care of yourself. So you see something in front of you, you take responsibility, and now how can you nurture your body and your mind and your spirit? Because what I'm seeing a lot, and I've experienced it myself, is that there's a lot of anxiety in the collective. And whether we feel it on a personal level or picking it up from other people, there's a lot of stress and worry and fear. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. You really have a choice point right now. You have the ability to decide, do I want to feel these things, and do I want to live from this place of fear and anxiety, or how can I start to nurture myself? Because here's the thing, as we move forward in this new timeline, right? And when I say new timeline, it's just like into this new way of being. As some of us may see it and are already living it, and some of us will be seeing it and will be living it soon. Whatever the case may be, the biggest part of it is to start taking responsibility for yourself, right? So you'll have guides, you'll have mentors, you'll have teachers. All of these things are necessary. And at the same time, the most important thing is that you start taking responsibility for yourself. And this is a little bit different than what we call, in a sense, self-empowerment. When you start to take self-responsibility, you're doing it because you want to activate and awaken something new within. This is not so much about, let me stand up and be empowered and tell people X, Y, and Z. This is about going deeper within and really owning up and really taking responsibility for every aspect of our lives. And we'll be talking so deeply about that in the Woman Wisdom Mentorship. But as we level up, as we bring in more of this gold light in our vehicle, in our bodies, in our energy fields, we're going to be asked, and we're all going to be asked in different ways, whether it's initiations or different life choices that we're going to be asked to make. How can we take more responsibility for ourselves? The number one thing, and when I think about like off the bat, straight off the bat, like this is how I started on my path, is health. Like that's the most obvious, in the forefront place. Like if you do not have your health in check, it's time to really get in. It's time to get a clean body. It's time to do whatever it is that you need to do. Increase the water. Maybe do a water fast. Maybe start to clean up your diet, right? Get rid of any of the toxic chemicals and the processed foods and all these things that are inhibiting us to receive and also integrate this new light that's coming in. So like the foundational part of all this is like, how is my body? Because if your health is not in check, and I'm talking about everything, right? Like vitality, like are you moving? Are you working out? Are you eating the right foods and hydrating? These are like very basic things, right? Like maybe it's not basic for some people, but this is the foundation of how we need to prepare our bodies to go through these eclipses and really just to live a good, healthy, connected life, right? If you're tuning in, you're probably into either, raising your vibration, activating your DNA, activating your self-inherent birthright, right? Being a beautiful human being, then your health has to be priority. And that's a journey in itself. That's not easy, but it must be started. And then in regards to anxiety and stress and living from a place of fear, we have to start to parent our own selves. We have to start taking care of our mind. Mm-hmm. Our mind is just as important as our bodies. And I'm curious to know if that's how you guys treat your mental space. Like, do you realize that the amount of effort that you're putting into your body is the same amount of effort that you need to put into your mind? And that could look like meditation. But it doesn't have to be meditation, right? A lot of us don't like meditation. So maybe it looks like not taking in specific kind of content because you know it's going to usher up fear and anxiety and stress. So maybe it's diverting your energy and your attention towards something that's going to help you and help you grow and help you feel better. And a really, really easy way to do this, guys, whatever is in front of you at any moment during your day, you take a breath and you ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Like in front of this content, whether I'm reading, I'm absorbing through a podcast, I'm listening to a TV station, I'm listening to someone speak, because the people around us have so much to do with what we're bringing into our mind. So how are you taking care of your mind? Like, that is right there next to your body. That is so, so important. Our subconscious mind. That's even deeper, right? We have to start get into that. And then obviously the next step would be taking care of our energy field. Like, that's real. You don't believe it? I mean, there's just so much proof at this point. It's kind of weird not to believe it, right? Like your heart field, Heart Math Institute, like that's a real institute, right? They've proven that our heart field is, if you want to just stick to that, how powerful is that, right? And so how are you taking care of that? Are you taking care of your heart? You know, are you taking care of your energy field? Are you grounding? Are you getting out into fresh air and nature? And yes, some of us are inside, but you can crack open a window, right? You can do certain things to help you connect and clear your energy field. And by the way, a lot of radiation, a lot of Wi-Fi, and a lot of streaming and being in front of screens can really throw you off. So if that's what you're feeling, if you're feeling that anxiety or like you're feeling frazzled, it can be because you're consuming a lot more than what you're used to, right? Because you may be spending a lot more time indoors. So you're naturally more in front of a screen. So just be mindful of that. Like, how are you feeling? Because how you feel is how you're going to be interacting with other people. And then another thing I wanted to share is it's a really good time to take inventory of your life right now. Like, especially finishing May, going into the middle of 2020 and walking into this gateway eclipse, this sandwich of eclipses. Like, if you haven't sat down recently, I'm not talking about like New Year's resolutions, because I'm sure that's changed since the beginning of the year, right? Totally different world. Take inventory of your life. Like, where are you with your life? Where are you with your routine? With your ability to love yourself? With your ability to show up for yourself? With your career, with your love, with your finances, with empowering yourself and stepping up into your destiny. You know, all of these things, make it as wide and big as possible, because the more clarity you have around your life, and our life is so diverse, the easier it is to step into these gateways and to offer up our inventory and say, let's do this. Let's take inventory together, right, with this new light that's coming in, and show me, teach me, guide me. And you will be amazed at what happens when you do that. Things start to change quickly. Like, if you genuinely come from a place of your heart and you offer that, like, you take the time, right? You can't just like fake it. You got to sit down with your life and take a real inventory. And when you take the real inventory and when you offer that up in a place like this, where you're going into a triple eclipse gateway, you will be surprised at what can happen. Because what you're doing is you're creating a relationship with life, with universal force, with God, however it is that you want to call it. You have now opened the door for that energy to come in and have a conversation with you. And that conversation, right, is like that green light turning into that gold light, right? It's like, it's not always pretty. It's not always easy. But that conversation has to be started, and usually it's started by massive transformation and massive change and massive choice points. And so that's the last part of this talk is, are you making the choices that are most beneficial to you? Whether they feel like they're risky, whether they feel like they're completely out of your league, whatever it is that your heart is desiring and asking you to do, are you following that intuition? And, you know, we moved here in Hawaii end of January, and that was not easy. It wasn't something that was just, I mean, that was part of it was destiny because we knew we had to do it, but that was my heart speaking for years. I was thinking about it earlier, and I knew I was supposed to live here like 5 years ago. It took me 5 years. It took us 5 years to make the decision and book the flights and move our life. And yeah, that's not an easy move, but when your heart is crying for you to do something, or when your heart is desiring this from the depths of your soul and you know that it's your truth, genuinely ask yourself, why are you holding yourself back? Because when you step into that thing that you know that you're supposed to step into, like what happened here for me, and this is just one example, like not just moving to Hawaii, this has happened so many different times. When you say yes to that project or that contract or that course or that life relationship or whatever it is that's like on your shoulder constantly, like you're going to sleep and it's still tapping you, and you wake up and it's still tapping you, and you're having dreams about it, right? When you say yes to that thing says yes to you. But you can't just say, I mean, I was saying yes to Hawaii for 5 years, but I didn't make any choices like book a flight, you know, I mean, we visited, but it wasn't like, saying yes means committing fully. And this triple eclipse gateway is a choice point. It's a choice point, and it's a question of what are you ready to commit to, and what are you ready to say yes to, and what are you ready to say no to? What part of you is that green light that's ready to just exit out of you or be transmuted, and what part of you is ready to open up and receive something different and something new that is more aligned and that will actually benefit you? Because when we can face our deepest fears and we can really say yes to that thing that's calling us, maybe it's a whisper, you know, sometimes it starts off as a really big yell, and it could start years ago, and as time passes it gets quieter and quieter and quieter to the point that it might even disappear. And just because it disappeared doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means that you have forgotten about it. So it's a very subtle line to say, yeah, I wanted to do that thing 3 years ago, but I just didn't get around to it, and it's just not for me. That's not necessarily true. What may be true is that you weren't ready for it then, and now you have a choice point. So I hope that lands with you well. I hope that makes sense, and I really hope that you take this passage, which is already opened, like the visions that I'm receiving and the messages that are coming through are highly activating, and they're very, very clear. There is no doubt about it. Like, we are really being given an opportunity. Can you really step forth and dive into this new phase? Because 2020 has already been a year that you'll never forget, but we are only not even halfway through it. And you can genuinely make a promise to yourself and say, that year 2020 ended up being the biggest blessing of my life. But the way that we step into this triple eclipse gateway may determine the ability for you to say that. And I hope that's more empowering than anything else, right? Because it is. It's supposed to be. Yeah, it's supposed to give you like the inspiration to be like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, you know what? I've gone through this much already. Let me dive deep into my deepest heart's desires. Let me say yes to my destiny. You know, let me take care of my body, my mind, and my spirit. and let me take my life to the next level. And I'm really excited. Because I'm being pushed into new territories of work and service, and it's scary, and at the same time I know I'm supposed to do it. There's no doubt about it. So it's 1:11 here in Hawaii, and I think that's perfect. Oh, so glad. Thank you, beauty. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. But that's what I wanted to share. I wanted to share that. It's a beautiful passage, a very powerful one, and an opportunity, a choice point. So I hope you enjoy it. The first eclipse starts next Friday. So make sure that you nourish your body and your spirit and your mind, because full moons with eclipses are real. Life gets real. And I have to laugh because it's not laughable, right? It's like, it's legit. It's real. And yeah, if you're ready to step into your full power and to own your feminine divine wisdom, and a lot of the reason why this course has come through is because there's a merging happening within. So the merging of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which I think I'll be talking about that more in the future, but there's this merging that's happening inside each and every one of us. At some point you have to experience it. If you are on the ascension path, or if you're on activating your light body, or however it is that you want to call it, there will be a merging of the feminine and masculine inside. This is not about being in a relationship to other, although that can also be a part of it. But the I am presence is coming forth strongly, and it's being activated. And so the only way to actually step into that is to first be in your feminine, or first be in your masculine, and then notice what each is, right? To like really understand the teachings and the wisdom of each, right? Because how are you ever going to experience a divine merging within if there are still so many wounds and traumas and misunderstanding of the things that I've been speaking about lately, right? Which is sex and fertility and power and pleasure, like all of these things, right? There must be a true understanding of these things before we can ever consider a divine merging within. And that divine merging is the next step. So that's one of the main reasons this Woman Wisdom mentorship has been created, to lay that foundation of like, okay, I know that there's this divine merging that can happen, and yet I need to get my shit together, right? I need to understand where I'm standing and how I'm finding this divine balance between masculine and feminine, to then be able to merge within and experience this divine holy trinity that is possible, that exists within. So that's one of the main reasons why this mentorship has been created, to be able to step towards that, right? It's like the first step towards that is owning the womb wisdom. So that registration closes on Sunday. We'll be starting next Wednesday, which I'm so excited about. We'll be working together through the Triple Eclipse Gateway, and that is by far, for me, one of the most beautiful and humbling opportunities to have, because to be surrounded by a group of beautiful souls through such a transformative passage on this year of 2020 is beyond my wildest dreams. It's genuinely like incredibly powerful. It's hard to even find words for it, but if it's something that calls you, I'd love to hear from you, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I will be opening the 3-day water fast as well for the solstice. It's opening next week, because it is so important to take care of our bodies. and to detoxify and to bring in this new golden light, right? To bring in these new light codes, we have to detox. We have to cleanse our bodies and our minds and our spirits. And one of the most incredibly direct and powerful ways to do that is to fast. You become a clear conduit. And I don't want to say that you will definitely become a clear conduit in 3 days, but you will start to step into that. You will start to step into becoming a clear channel. So if some of this is like, what are you talking about? Or I don't feel very connected to these gateways. Fasting is a really, really direct way to calm the mind, to redirect that focus from the external world back into the internal world, and to allow ourselves to receive what is in our highest good and in our highest destiny. So I will be opening up that 3-day fast. It's available at all times, but when there is a very powerful portal like this, I will always open it up and provide a little extra support through the process. And I will likely be fasting as well, because it's just what my body requires and demands. Hey Kelly. So I hope this has been helpful and inspirational, and I hope this stays with you through this beautiful, powerful, powerful passage that we are already in. Blessings from Hawaii, and mahalo for tuning in.